Hello and welcome to another edition of the Movie Kit podcast. I'm your host, Kit Bowen. I think we have a pretty excellent show today for you. We're going to be talking about the new movie coming out this week on Civil War, which basically gives us a sort of near future look at what our country would be like if we were at Civil War in a Civil War. So let me just read quickly the description. A journey across a dystopian future America following a team of military embedded journalists as they race against time to reach DC before rebel factions descend upon the White House. It is written and directed by Alex Garland of Ex Machina and Annihilation. But those are things he's done. It stars Kirsten Dunst, Wagner Moura, Cailee Spaeny. Is that how you say her name? Spaeny.
Mm-hmm.
Also, some brief appearances by Nick Offerman, Jesse Plemons, and joining me in this what should be a very intense conversation, I think, is my very good friend Joel Amos of the Movie Mitch. Joel, how are you today?
Um, I'm still shook, but I'm good. I'm good. Thank
Well,
you.
go ahead. Just let's just get into it. What did you think of Civil War?
Um, I could release a litany of adjectives right now, but it's so intense on a cerebral level where it just, as I said in my review, like no matter what side of the aisle you're on, this movie should have you leaving the theater feeling like you've been stabbed in the heart
Mhm.
and that you to do everything you can to protect and ensure that democracy endures. And they never do it. Alex Garland never does it by hitting you over the head, except with the combat sequences, which are incredibly well filmed. And I always think the gold standard is Saving Private Ryan. And I think we have a new gold standard for combat shown on film, and that's Civil War.
Yeah.
And it is so harrowing. It is so powerful. And what I love too is that it's also grounded with our main four journalists.
Yeah.
And there's a mentor situation um, with Kirsten Dunst and the young woman who joins them, played by Miss Spaeny. And I love how there's an old wise soul, Sammy, played by the veteran actor Stephen McKinley
Yeah.
Henderson. And then Wagner Moura, who plays Joel, is just it kind of grounds it gives it its compass, its barometer. Um, I was gonna maybe delve a little bit more into this later, but like I don't think I've ever seen traumatic stress disorder displayed as well
Okay.
by the actors in this film, particularly Dunst and
Yes.
Mora. There are two scenes. One's in the trailer, one's a still. So like you could have this picture of Mora just screaming. Like you can just feel the emotion in this one image. And I can't even tell you what it feels like when you hear it on the screen. And then one last thing before I turn it back over is um, the score and how the score is another level of jabbing you all over,
Mhm.
uh, making you feel very uncomfortable. And cinema is supposed to move you, I think, on an emotional and even a physical, physiological level. And I think what Garland has done here is exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was too. I literally had to sit there for about 5 minutes before I could move, just had my head in my hands. I was just so uh overwhelmed by it, really. I was gutted. I was gutted. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about it, of course, and Alex Garland has come out and, has said many different things about it. It's a warning. It's a this, which is all well and good, and it absolutely is because, um, you know, I honestly feel like this couldn't ever happen. I do have enough faith in our country and our democracy that I don't think we would ever let this happen. But, he does try to fictionalize it in a way like having Texas and California be allies with Florida in there too. Um,
But
which,
and having lived in California, and there's no love lost between these two states, which is
no,
what makes this so extraordinary.
exactly. And I've also heard it told from the perspective of how it's a love letter for journalism. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly our profession, which we've both been in for most of our careers, have has always been taking a hit. I mean, to say that, media stokes fires is not something that's untrue, because it does. It just depends on what kind of media you're talking about.
And what the fire is.
Right. Yes. And it is a little hard to get truthful information, even out of, both sides of the coin. Really, there it is. It just is. It's hard not to throw your bias in there, It really, I feel like sometimes, but certainly in this film, certainly mostly with photojournalism, which is really the main point of this, is the pictures we see and just how Alex Garland frames some of the most horrific looking, horrific moments in the movie with like stills from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Particularly black and white.
Yeah. Yeah, and Cailee's character, she's us basically. She's learning all of this, fresh, and she wants to be part of it, but does she really, And you're right, the sort of PTSD that comes out in different ways throughout the
Mhm.
film from these people, because, Kristen Dunst's character and Wagner's character, they've been through it a lot, especially Kristen, she's been in war-torn countries. And that's the other thing about this that literally just floored me. It just, the fact that, as a country and as a people, living in this country, we've never had to have this kind of thing happen. We don't have to worry about going outside of our houses and getting shot in the streets. We don't have any of that in our lives. But we know it's a very, very, very real thing for many, many people across this world. Uh, it's from Gaza to Ukraine to just Bosnia to every place, that has this kind of stuff. Even in World War II, I mean, we maybe had just the briefest of it, but not really, not like France and Germany and England. And I mean, it's just
Uh,
it it just boggles my mind that, as frightening as this film was, knowing that it, could possibly happen, it just also just makes my heart hurt for those who live it all the time.
yeah, and then, I don't know why it popped in my head, and I don't think this is really giving anything away because I'm not going to be specific, but I think in some ways, like something that speaks to that is not necessarily some of the carnage and just walking through a forest and then you get shot. But like there's a scene when they go to a town and everything seems normal, and it's just really
Yes.
bizarre. And
Yes.
then just the guy like kind of says, "Be really cool. Look up."
Yeah.
And you just realize that that's the reality for so many people across the planet, that like they can go about their day, but things are anything but normal.
Yeah. And how this one little town, of many, I guess,
Yeah.
have protected themselves in a way that they can continue living their existence in this little bubble. And I also, also not giving too much away, we do get a little, one thing that I actually loved about this is that there was hardly any exposition. You just literally are just put smack in the middle of it, actually towards the end of it. And you kind of just get little glimpses of how it may have occurred. Like, Nick Offerman's president really isn't anything like, you know, who we're worried about right now. It's really not anything like that. He's completely separate from that, but he has a fascist of some kind who's been able to manipulate the government and dismantle. At one point, it says dismantles the FBI, and you're like, oh God, I mean, true, it can
Mm.
happen, but
It's
yeah,
yeah.
but
It's been discussed.
it has been discussed. But the fact that Kristen Dunst's parents and Cailee's parents, they're living in farms, trying not to re in denial that this is actually happening, which kind of harkens to this little town that they run through. Um, it's also got that sort of, post-apocalyptic feel to it, besides just the war part, but the idea that man, humanity, when faced with some sort of tragic thing, just how it can either bring out the best or worst, mostly the worst, I think, in people. And giving those people guns. Also in the trailer was the Jesse Plemons uh
Oh,
part, which was probably the worst part of that. I mean, the most
oh,
affecting.
yeah. And actually, I mentioned like the PTSD moments, and I saluted Dunst and
Yeah,
Moura, but Spaeny
yeah.
in that scene, her little PTSD meltdown. I mean, that was to the core. And Clement's character, I mean, I hate to say it, but there are people out there like that.
Oh, of course, of course. There's
I
no
mean,
question.
thousands. And like they stormed the Capitol. And like what got me, and again, I don't want to give away anything, is I was along for this ride, but the ending, which in a lot of ways to me felt like uh, how they captured Bin Laden, you know.
Yes.
Um, and I think that's very much on purpose. And the ending to me turned the entire thing on its head.
Oh, yeah, that last 20 minutes was
Yeah.
almost unbearable. I mean, it was the sounds, the
Uh,
just everything you were watching, it was tremendous. So yeah, I
I,
mean, look, as polarizing as I think this film is in a lot of respects, because people are going to say, well, don't make me feel like I don't need to stoke my fears, blah, 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 or whatever the case may be. It is hands down one of the better made films I've seen in a while. And, uh, well, certainly this year. And
yeah.
I think that Garland is, he's a fabulous filmmaker and a writer, storyteller. I mean, all of
Yeah.
his films
All of them.
have been very interesting takes on things. And he definitely has a a sensibility to his films, but he's just, yeah, he's quite the talent. And I don't know. I mean, I know it's early, but do you think this has Oscar legs?
Gosh, I hope so.
Me
I
too.
really hope so. I mean, I feel like September, October is starting to be a stretch lately. But like, God, I hope so. I mean,
It has to be. It
it,
has to
it's
be.
it has like, I mean, I don't know. I was just going to read the last sentence of my review. I was like, why it haunts and will continue to haunt you is because Garland has crafted a film where fiction meets the road of nonfiction in a manner that will seismically suck you in and never, ever let you go.
No, it's very true. Very
And
true.
I feel like if that's the case, then yes, people will be remembering it. Um, I think it's also going to be whether they want it to or not, or maybe they do want it. It's going to be very much tied to the election this year somehow. But what I got to say is I have a little bit of hope. Um, I kind of live in a purple town. It was very red, but it's becoming increasingly purple. Um, but yet this theater was packed. I mean, packed.
Yeah.
And people like clapped when it was over
Oh,
because
me too. Me
they
too.
were just blown away. And well, the thing is, it's like I was looking at it the weekend, and it looks like it's just sold out all over the place. And a friend of mine, I posted the review on Facebook. A friend of mine who's a Republican, but not a fan of who,
Mhm.
um, thought it was just going to be Hollywood slap in the face to who, and he wasn't going to go see that. Not
Right.
that he is a fan, but he read my review, and he and his wife bought tickets for tomorrow. Like already, they're just like, this sounds very important, and it doesn't sound like what I thought it was. And I feel
Right.
like the more people that see it, the more people will hear that it's not what you think it is.
Right.
Um, and I mean, and another thing I want to say too is like I was given the choice of seeing it whether in IMAX or Dolby, and here they don't have both. They're
Right.
separate, and supposedly they really want you to see it on IMAX. But I focused on the combat and how much I had heard that was just otherworldly. So I
Yeah.
saw it in Dolby, and I cannot recommend that enough.
I saw it in
Oh,
IMAX.
well, I think either way you can't go wrong,
You
but
can't go
like
wrong
at
with
all,
either one of those. But just
either
be
one. But
prepared. Be
the the
prepared.
the Dolby, the I mean, you're in the firefight. I mean, your seat is shaking. Um, the bombs are exploding. It was, I
Yeah.
think, one of the best uses of Dolby I've seen in a decade. Like
Yeah.
seeing movies in a Dolby theater, and
Right.
I've been to Dolby headquarters and seen a movie, and this
Yeah.
thing rocked me more than that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was pretty much a full-blown experience there. Like I said, be prepared. Be prepared. It's just it's relentless sometimes and in a good way. I mean, I would give this
Yeah,
5 stars. How about you?
five, easy,
Easy.
easy, easy,
Easy peasy.
easy.
And
It's probably
just
my first A plus of the year, I think.
yeah.
Pretty sure.
I mean, I can't say enough of, I mean, just unfortunately, it's not a movie that I'm gonna want to see again for a while. Not
No.
one of those kind of movies, which, is a shame because I do love those movies too. But yeah, no, this is something like Schindler's List where, you watch it once, you experience it, and then you gotta move on. You gotta move on because it's hard. It's very hard. But we kind of discussed this a little bit, the two of us together. We talked about other movies that have shook us because I don't think I've been shook like this in a while, long time. But we were gonna just highlight one movie that we
Uh-huh.
and I'm gonna do United 93 for me, which is the film about the plane that was gonna fly into the White House, right? I think during
Yep,
nine
yep,
11,
yep.
and how the the passengers of this plane were able to somehow you know take over the plane from the terrorists and unfortunately crashed into the ground and killed everybody, but that they were able to thwart their intent. Unbelievable movie too. Literally just nonstop, and you're thinking, what's going to happen, but it's still you think at some point they're going to make it, and oh God, and that last scene where it's just going right down into the ground. I mean, fuck. So anyway, the thing that shook me the most, besides it being a really well-made movie and very affecting, was the fact that I saw it in Florida when I was doing reviews there, and I saw this movie in a morning screening at 10 something, and I walk out at noon, and literally the sun just bursting into my eyes after just experiencing this, very traumatic movie. And I was like, wow, I can't handle Florida right now. I need to be somewhere in a hole because I need to just process this. I couldn't because I was walking out into the bright Florida sunshine. So that was one for me. How about you?
For me, it's 12 Monkeys. Um,
Oh,
Bruce Willis, Brad Pitt won a Golden Globe, actually, where he famously thanked Kale Pectate for allowing him to be there for the evening, which is hysterical. But
right.
I saw it also at like an early afternoon screening, and it was in San Diego, so also very bright. So it's this idea of like this apocalypse, and this guy keeps getting sent mad. Bruce
Right.
Willis trying to stop it, or at least find out why, and then you think you know why, and then that you're wrong, and you think you know why, and then when you find out like why, it's just like it is so shocking that and then the movie ends, and you're just left to sit there, kind of like this one. And like my wife and I leave the theater, and we're like shaking. We open the doors, and it's the San Diego sunshine, and people are like, "Oh, that was delicious, wild buffalo wings, blah blah blah." Let's go to Red Lobster, and I'm just like,
Same
"You
kind
are
of
all
thing.
gonna." I'm like, "You are all gonna die." And like the whole way to my car, I'm like, "You're all dead. You're all dead." And I'm just like, that movie shook me, just shook
Yeah.
me. And I love that movie, but I don't think I've seen it again. And they made a TV series about it, and I didn't want to go there because it just
Yeah.
felt like it might alter the experience for me. And I'm just going to take that to the grave as the movie that rocks me to the core, at least until Civil War.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's been other movies that have definitely
Yeah,
me devastated, crying, or but yeah, those I think similar situations. And at least for Civil War, I walked out, and even though I was kind of walking out into, the city walk kind of area or whatever, with bustling with people and food and music, and I'm like, just just thinking what would happen, what would happen. Then I just started thinking, well, I would just have to go. I would have, if it actually happened, I'd leave. I can't live here. I couldn't do it. So anyway, you get your mind starts going. How would I get out? It's like those disaster movies too, or how would I survive? I must survive. I think I can kill zombies now. I'm pretty confident on that one, but yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
um, go ahead.
I like that they, I mean, it wasn't a huge part, but like that actually was kind of addressed without being addressed. I mean, the refugees, like, people were, you watch these movies sometimes and you're like, where are all the people? But it doesn't really matter because it's not the point of the movie. But
No.
like here, it's not like hit over your head, but you're like, oh, okay, that's where, everyone's leaving town and they're just taking shelter because, that's what you do.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, not to bring that up again
So
because
quickly, we wanted to, you and I wanted to just kind of give our big giant thumbs up on two Netflix series that came out recently. Although I think Blue Eye Samurai came out about a month, 2 months ago. But we both just caught it recently. And loved it. It's an animated, I wouldn't say animated uh series on Netflix. If anyone is watching Shogun right now, and loving it or liking it, you're going to really need to watch this as well, Blue Eye Samurai. It's about vengeance. It's had that Kill Bill feel to it. About a young warrior who's out for blood and basically trying to and is considered an untouchable because they are of mixed blood. Basically, they're not pure Japanese. And I guess during this time period where the Japan closed itself off to the rest of the world and was anyone who came in or was part of that, somehow was a mixed breed kind of thing, were shunned and whatnot. So it's really well done, like full on adult animation. There's sex, there's nudity, there's lots of gore. I just loved it. How about you?
oh yeah, no, that was fantastic. That was an absolute treat. And it's nice to see, like, I think long ago we learned that animation isn't just for kids anymore. And this has certainly shown that yeah, no, we've pushed the envelope and we're gonna push it even further.
Yeah,
Um and good for you, because there are stories to be told, and sometimes the animated art form is the best way to tell them. And I think
yeah,
that's the case with this. I think that's very much the
absolutely.
case with this. Talk about live action remakes, blah blah blah. Like this is firmly in its lane, and it is a gorgeous, beautiful lane filled with everything you would want in a series directed at an audience of a certain age, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. So definitely check that out if you have a chance to on Netflix. Blue Eye War Samurai. It's got a great vocal cast too. Some people you'll recognize the voices, including I just had it up. Uh Min Yang, Min Wayne, Min
and Yao Wen.
thank you. Maya Erskine, who I learned to love from Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Amazon Prime.
Oh,
Good of that. George
it's another good one.
Takei, Brenda Song, Masi Oka from
Hmm.
Heroes, Darren Barnett, Randall Park, and then surprisingly, Kenneth Branagh's in it as well, and he's kind of a bad guy. So really, really well done. You guys definitely check it out. Okay, and then the next one we want to talk about real quick is it came out a couple of weeks ago, so it's still pretty fresh on Netflix. Three Body Problem. This is a remake of uh actually I think they did make it in China as a miniseries, but
Mm-hmm.
it's based on these very popular sci-fi Chinese novels. And it's about well, I'll just let you read this here. I'll just read this here. A fateful decision made in 1960s China reverberates in the present, where a group of scientists partner with a detective to confront an existential planetary threat. It is created by our very favorite two creators from Game of Thrones, David Benioff, D.B. Weiss, also Alexander Wu. It's got a great cast. From Isa Gonzalez, Jova Nadepo, Liam Cunningham, some Game of Thrones faces in there. Benedict Wong, Jess Han, um, Rosalind Chow. Just a really stellar cast. Jonathan Pryce. It's kind of a oh, and of course I can't forget to mention Sam Tarley, John Bradley. Um, it is for me anyway, it was kind of a slow grow. Uh, there's a fair amount of weird exposition at the beginning of it. I mean, I was following it and I was in it, but it took me a little bit of time. But then once it hits about episode 4 or so, then it just takes off like a rocket. And it's the idea of alien invasion, but it's kind of a slow growing
But
alien invasion.
yeah,
I
uh,
loved it. Go ahead.
yeah, it actually like it really got me from the beginning, and it was more got me from the beginning because I'm just like what on earth? Like I was so invested because simply because I'm like I have no idea what's happening and how it's
Right.
happening and why it's happening. And so that's kind of why I was just like, like a page turner, like a book. And you can really tell it's based on a book. And
Yes.
what's crazy is like it's a very expansive book series. So and the thing is like it is an alien invasion. And I think I'm sure it's in the trailer. Like they're coming in like 400 years. So like how does humanity react? Well, there's this one guy who like is we're going to start right now.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're going to do. And so it's kind of, and I think Benedict Wong is just fantastic, and I love him in anything.
Yeah, he's
Um,
great. I forget
he's
he's
just,
British.
yeah, yeah, and Elise Gonzalez with a British accent really works, and um, I just it's very personal. The stuff with Will, um, and then like the final episode I think is just by far the best,
Yeah.
and you realize like how out of control we are with the way things are going to be going
Yeah.
now, much less in hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And I am so there for season 2, episode 1.
Yeah. Let's hope it happens. I haven't heard anything about it being renewed, but uh yeah.
But I did hear today
Mm.
Apple just renewed Monarch Legacy of Monsters for season 2,
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. One of
right?
our faves.
So there's your slice of
Yay.
of news.
So yeah, so both of us love those two Netflix series, definitely 5 stars all around for both of us. Well, for me on those two, I'm sure for you as well.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, yes,
So yeah, I mean, if you want to see Civil War and then watch Three Body Problem, pretty much covered what's going to happen to Earth and what's going to happen in this country and then what's going to happen on Earth. Yeah, no, those are really good. So thanks, Joel. Again, I love talking to you about this stuff.
good
It was
stuff.
it was a good week for movies for sure. Next week, what's coming out next week? I don't know. Do you know?
Let me see.
Let's look. Let's look. Um, what?
Abigail, the horror movie.
Oh,
Um, I just like the tagline, like the kidnappers
oh yeah,
kidnap the wrong child.
yeah. No, it's a great trailer. Yes,
Yeah,
all about vampires.
lots of horror. Sting, First Omen. Um,
Oh, for
and
Summit. Oh, I thought
oh wait,
that.
no, no. That's not coming out. That's just
Now
listed up top.
that came out this week, no? Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think Abigail looks like the biggie one. So hopefully we'll get a chance to see that and we'll get to talk some horror. It's been a little bit of time since we've done a horror one, so looking forward to it. So thank you, Joel, again. And you can check out Joel's reviews on his website, themoviematch.com. And definitely tune in next week as we do another podcast about movies. Again, take care this weekend. If you go see Civil War, we're there for you. Our hearts are there for you. So
Good luck with that.
take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.